Hair, Love, Radio.
You're listening to Hair Love Radio, where we get into the nitty-gritty of what it takes to make your dreams a reality, start unlocking your potential, and live your best life, helping hairstylists, creatives, and girl bosses spread their awesome and light like confetti. You were made for awesome. Hi, welcome back to Hair Love Radio. I'm your host, Elizabeth Faye. Today we are here with one of my greatest friends and one of the most awesome people ever. This is my first business coach. Now introducing Danny J.
Hi. Thank you for having me on the podcast. I love this.
We are so glad to have you. Danny actually has a podcast of her own.
I do. It's called The Best Life Podcast. It's really fun. Which we got to get you on soon, too.
That would be so fun.
Yeah.
And they go deep there.
We go really deep. It's good. So we're going to go deep today, too.
Yeah. No, we're excited. So Danny is one of the coaches on my new education program called Workshop in a Box. And when she is on this program, she is doing some really in-depth coaching on branding like a badass is one of the modules. And one of the chapters is also about making money with your mind.
Yep.
Which is one of my favorite topics because you have been such a huge influence in my life. And I've blogged about it. I've posted about it. We share about it in Workshop in a Box. And you've helped me shift my mindset through really hard times in my life, like divorce and through having, a newborn and growing these businesses and having employees and all these different things. And just really the way that, and really just changing my mindset about money has literally revolutionized my life, my income, the way I function, and just living a life full of abundance.
Yeah.
But that doesn't come without its set of failures, right?
Totally.
Hence the title, I'm a failure and so are you, right?
Yeah.
And so that's the topic of what we're talking about today is we are failures and so are you.
I'm one of the biggest failures you'll ever meet. It's so funny. I think the most successful people we ever see, more often than not, they've probably had more failures than anyone else. And the thing that separates them from the people who aren't successful yet is that they just kept going.
Yeah.
And there's most successful people will keep going despite setbacks, despite failures, because I don't know, they just have to. I think for me and maybe for you too, it's kind of in our DNA. And not to say that there haven't been times I wanted to quit, because there have been a million. And there's times that I have quit. There's times that I have quit. Yeah. And then the next morning I got back up. I'm like, okay, I quit it's 3 p.m. I quit. And then the next day I'm like, okay, I can't. I got to get back
for the day sometimes.
Yeah.
Or even the week.
Yeah.
I've even had weeks or months where I've had to turn off.
Yeah.
But I think at the end of the day, as long as you don't, quit your daydream,
Yeah.
or as they say, or you're more, ruthlessly committed to your dream or where you're going than you are to whatever else that may be.
Yeah. So funny. I remember a certain time, speaking of failures, it was around, I'd say 2013. So I was a personal trainer for years and I loved training. So I think it just really ties in a lot to hairdressing. Hairdressing, is that a thing?
Yeah.
Being a hairdresser?
Yeah. Hairdressing. That's totally what it's called.
So to being a hairdresser, because you have clients, you have people coming in, you are providing a service, you're doing it really a lot of the times around their schedule. There's a lot of similarities. And,
yeah, very much so.
And we were living in Las Vegas. My husband and I at the time were living in Las Vegas, and the market crashed pretty hard. And we were actually still doing really well for a while. A lot of people were losing their jobs, but this funny thing happened where people stopped paying mortgages on their house. So they were living in their homes for free. So suddenly they had this extra money and they were doing personal training.
Oh my gosh.
So while everyone was crying about the market being terrible and nobody having money, we were kind of going, dang, we're doing really well right now. Everybody's training with us. But after 2 years of that, suddenly they finally were getting kicked out of their homes. They finally were filing bankruptcy. And then within a month, actually, 1 month in particular, we lost $3,000 of income. And then over the next 3 to 6 months, we lost about $6,000 a month of income. And we were just going, dang, now we're starting to feel it. And so to make a long story short, I started another business, an online business with a business partner, one of my best friends. We moved to Utah, actually northern Utah, started this brand, and ultimately didn't work out. The friendship turned sour. There was a lot of personal things that got involved. So I had to take the business on my own, and my husband had to go get a job. One of us needed to get a job.
Right. And you're both kind of entrepreneurs at the time.
Yes. Yeah. So we were both working for ourselves, and I was like, there's no way I can get a job. I just felt very much it can't be me, although I tried. And so he ended up getting the job first, took us to Dallas, Texas. And at the time, one of our cars broke down. So we had one vehicle and he had the job. And so he was driving a lot. And so I was stuck at home. And this was the point that it was really like, I have to make my online business work or I've got nothing, because I didn't want to start over trying to get brand new clients in a brand new city of a place I didn't know and try to figure out how I was going to do that, especially when I didn't have, and especially when I didn't have a car to get there. So I knew that there was a gym I could work at, but it wasn't close. It wasn't like New York City where I could get on public transportation.
Right.
I'm in Dallas, Texas, and there wasn't really that way to get around. So for me, it was like make or break my online business. And so I really pushed all my effort into that and my energy into that. And I will say it's funny because those times that are like the hardest and you feel like everything is falling apart and you're losing everything, it was that year that was the biggest shift in transformation for me. It was 2012. My ex and I made combined $19,000 that year. And it was so embarrassing, so humiliating. I mean,
and you'd been previously so successful.
Yes, we had been. Yeah, we've been successful.
Yeah.
We've been making multiple six figures. We had a house. We had the cars. Like we had all of the stuff. And suddenly it was all gone. And we're living in this 1-bedroom apartment in Texas with one car. And I felt like the biggest loser. And not the TV show, but like literally just a big loser. And
a real guy.
Yeah, like an actual loser. And I had this little online business and I was just going, how am I going to make this work? And how are we going to, I mean, the money was so tight. I remember crying all the time, not being able to like really make my credit card bills racked up high. And I started that year to shift my money mindset. I found a money mentor and I read a book called First Steps to Wealth that actually started to shift my mind. And we went from making $19,000 in 2012 to 2013 making $160,000.
Wow.
And it was just like a
crazy.
massive, massive shift because I had to, but I could have just continued to play the victim. I could have said, the economy's bad, nobody's hiring, this happened to us, we lost our house. And believe me, I sat there for a while and I said that for a while, but then I had to look in the mirror and go, okay, this happened now, but what can you do about it?
Yeah, where are we going?
And have an abundance mindset of, okay, well, maybe you don't have a car to get to the gym, but you do have the internet and you are able to reach people who need your services and want to work with you because they see you and they've seen your brand online. So what can you create to solve problems that are bigger and that are out there? And for me, that also expanded my mind to realize I've always wanted to reach more people and have a big impact. And when I was working in the gym one-on-one, I had amazing impact on people and I had really close relationships with my clients, but I only had one person for that 1 hour. And I would get, you max out on how many people you can see, right? You only have 24 hours in a day and you're not training or cutting hair the whole time. Yeah. So you only have so many people you can see. And I realized that with the internet, I was able to impact more people and be able to reach more people because I didn't have to be there with that one person for that 1 hour. And so
you didn't even have a car. So
right.
It's a good thing you had the internet.
Yes, exactly.
Well, it's a good thing you did have the internet.
I know.
And I'm so grateful for the internet as well.
So there was actually this time that year in 2013, and this was while we were making more money, but I was still scared. I was still living in a little bit of fear. And when my husband got home from work, I told him I needed to run errands, and I didn't need to run errands. I just wanted to get in the car and like cry, and I didn't want him to see. So I drove to a Trader Joe's parking lot and I like parked in the back and I literally just was bawling and I'm going, I don't know if I can do this. And my thought was, I should just get a job at Starbucks.
I love Starbucks.
It was funny.
That's not your worst thought.
I know.
Actually.
I was like, the funny thing is that, I went to college and there's so many things that I could do, but the thought that I just need to get a job at Starbucks because I was feeling like that's all I could do. And I had a nose ring and I was thinking nobody's going to hire me.
Right.
And
you're desperate. You were functioning in fear, not abundance.
Totally.
Right.
I was functioning in fear. And then really what happened was that night, my phone, I was sitting there crying and my phone like had this notification and I picked it up and it was an email and I just clicked it. And it was this woman who wrote me like this 2-page letter. And she was telling me how she's been following me forever. She's been reading my blog. She was listening to some interviews and I saved her life. And while I don't take credit for saving her life, it was literally one of those like, wow, I am doing something that's really powerful. And even though the money wasn't coming in quite yet how I wanted it to, I realized I had to keep going because there were people that maybe I didn't know were paying attention. I had never seen her comment or like on anything before,
right,
but she was watching. And I think that one of the things we all have gifts is that people are watching us and they're seeing how we react. And sometimes
be children, our followers, our loved ones, our neighbors.
Totally.
Yeah.
And sometimes in that moment, we're feeling so discouraged because we don't have the manifestation right away. Like the paychecks aren't showing right away or the clients aren't showing up right away. But it's kind of like when you put a seed in the ground and you're planting a seed and you're watering it every day, you know at some point it's going to come out. So just because we can't see what's happening and we can't see the roots forming doesn't mean that it's not going to produce fruit. It just means we have to wait. And so I was in that place of I was putting in a lot of effort. If I had known, if I could go a year later and go, wow, you made like 10 times as much as you did the year before, but I didn't believe it right then in that moment. It didn't feel like what I was doing was working. And then I got that email and that email kept me going. And I was like, okay, I'm still broke, but I got to keep going.
Yeah, you were making an impact.
Yes. So I just, I kept going with it and it did start to grow and it did start to grow exponentially. But the beginning was one of the hardest parts. And it's our biggest enemy is just our own mind.
Yeah.
It's just going, keep going, keep going. This isn't working. Okay, try a new way. Like, all right, I'm going through a tunnel. Like you're in a maze, you hit a wall. Now you got to turn and try another way.
100%. Well, and I think, as we are, whether it's growing a business or raising children or whatever we're doing, you're going to have failures, like no matter what. Yeah. And what will get you through those is making sure your purpose is so strong and you have a why. Yep. Because if your dream and your purpose, obviously if your children, if it's raising your children, that's a little bit easier to find your purpose because they are your purpose. But if it's growing a business, sometimes your reason, your why has to be really strong to help you get through this bullshit because it's very hard. It's like, I spent a long time, we talked about this in Workshop in a Box, how, blogging and no one was watching, posting and no one was looking. I remember one of the salons I was at the time had like these big red curtains and I was, they had these big red curtains and I was starting on social media and I would ask this girl in the corner to move 3 or 4 times a day so I could take a photo of my client's hair and then post it. And it didn't feel like it was doing anything for so long. Yep. And just the other day, we're in the kitchen cooking and he was just like, look, all this posting is starting to pay. You know what I mean? It's paying off. Yep. And so it's just like that. See, like it's by little things daily, something beautiful grows. But it's just that constant, those little things. Yeah. And you just keep doing them and that consistency. And when you fail, you just got to get up and do it again and not quit. And
it's like that consistency when you think it's not working. It's just like you think what you're doing doesn't matter. You think nobody's watching, but somebody is. And it's like when people will ask, well, how do you grow your Instagram that big? We were just talking about it earlier. You're like, it only took me 4 years. It only took me like somebody asked me recently, how did you grow your Instagram? And mine's not even as big as yours. I'm like, well, it only took me 10 years. Yeah. Because I was on MySpace and I grew that. And then I was on Facebook and then I grew that. So it's been a process and everything is different. So even Instagram today, we said we started in 2012, but we didn't really use it then. So Instagram today is different than it was then.
It's different than it was 2 years ago.
It's 100%.
Yeah, and so we're always like learning and growing.
You have to keep learning and you have to keep trying. And the biggest thing is to, I don't want to say not get discouraged because we will get discouraged, but it's like, how do you deal with discouragement? That's really the difference because
everyone does. Well, and I think like just hearing that other people who have been successful get discouraged too. It's comforting to me because I look at you, you've been my coach and you've been my mentor and my friend and I look up to you. So just to hear you say like you've ever been discouraged, it's like, oh my God, awesome people get discouraged too. You know what I mean? And I'm sure people listening, kind of feel the same way. Like, oh wait, they have this much success, but they have moments where they want to quit too, or they're discouraging. Like, I have mental breakdowns. Sometimes, like I literally
sometimes every day.
People are like, how do you do everything you're doing? I'm like, well, 1 mental breakdown a week, lots of amazing employees, a nanny, a house cleaner, amazing boyfriend, and I still have more mental breakdowns. Totally.
You
know what I mean? And it was the same thing when I didn't have employees and I didn't have a nanny and I didn't have a housekeeper. There was just more mental breakdowns.
There was just more of it, but
it's hard. It is, and everyone gets discouraged.
It is hard. And you get discouraged because things change and that are out of your control too. Yes. So let's just say like Facebook. So for me, I got a lot of success on Facebook and it was so easy to make money in those years. They didn't have the algorithms. I literally had posts that had over 3,000 shares.
That's crazy.
Like not even just views or likes, shares. Like likes would be over 10,000 or 20,000 depending on like how good it was. No, this was before you could pay for it.
Oh yeah, it was before ads.
So like everything was seen. You didn't have to pay. So now, and I've had to deal with check my own, check yourself before you wreck yourself, but try not to complain about how it is now. I'm like, now you have to pay. Back in my day, you didn't have to pay. But And I realized like now, okay, if I need things to be seen, I'm going to have to pay. That's just a fact of life. If I want things to be seen on Facebook that are important, then I will have to pay. But it was so easy. So when things shifted, I saw a lot of people who were doing well in my space on Facebook who have completely disappeared now. And while I'm not doing as well as I'd like to on Instagram as far as growth, I still have some really, really loyal people who followed me since back then.
When you haven't quit,
I haven't.
is the point.
Yes, I have
and
an
you didn't
email
disappear
list.
whatsoever.
No, right? I didn't
Yeah.
quit. I have an email list. I have other assets, and there's things that are going to change. And you know what else? Instagram's going to change too, and there's going to be another platform, and who knows when and how. And I'm going to have to be ready to adapt and change. And if I wanted to just sit there and whine about how we still don't have MySpace, well, that's great, but other people are going to be making money, making more of an impact, and actually getting their brand out there while I'm sitting there whining about it. So
100%.
there's no point to just complain or cry.
No, not at all.
Even though you can cry, you just got to dry your eyes and get back up.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's good for people to hear like that
Yeah.
other people have failures. I mean,
I wanted to talk about your couple of your brands. Like we talked about when I first met you. You've had
my
like
brand.
because we were talking about branding, and like I've had a lot of
Yeah.
iterations. So my first brand, I called it. It was first I had on my Facebook. It was Danny J fitness model. I don't even know. Like I had this long thing. It was so ridiculous because I wanted to be like this fitness model. And I did fitness modeling, and then I was like on some magazine covers, and I did some cover stuff, and I was like, okay, this isn't really making me any money. So then I realized I needed to like promote my personal training, not me as a model.
Yeah.
Like my modeling could get me eyeballs, and then my eyeballs needed to get me money, so turning them into clients. So I started my first brand called No Excuses Fitness. And so it was really like I actually was paralyzed when I was 23, 22.
I didn't know this about you.
Yeah. So I was an acrobat at SeaWorld. I got a massive
What?
Yeah.
What?
I haven't told you this?
No.
Oh my God. Yeah.
You
My
were
first
an
job.
acrobat at
Yeah.
SeaWorld?
My first job out of college, I was an acrobat.
My mind is blown. Oh my gosh. Okay, keep going.
So I was an acrobat, and
What's in
our
the
show was in
world?
Mission Bay, and it was the water. So it wasn't any like pool water. It was like actually the bay. So we had this island that we'd swim to. We launched off this swing set thing. Anyway, long story short, I got this bacterial infection in my blood.
Gosh.
Almost killed me, paralyzed
What?
me. Yeah. So I'm in the hospital for over a month. I'm paralyzed for about a year. And I finally learned to walk again. And so I remember the whole time I couldn't walk, I just kept thinking, like, if I can never walk again, like, I will never complain. I will never make excuses. And I started going to the gym.
No excuses.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So I remember my mom would take me to the gym, and she would drop me off, and I had my walker at the time. So I took my walker to the gym. I'd go to like a little bicycle or get on the bike and push my legs around.
Oh my goodness.
And I would see a lot of other like handicapped or like crippled people there. And I was like, dang, I would never notice them before.
Yeah.
And so I realized I was like, they're not making any excuses. And so for me, it just came to like, there are no excuses. Like you can't walk, you can still go to the gym. And so my first fitness brand was No Excuses Fitness. But interestingly enough, I got into really hardcore training in the fitness modeling stuff. And I ended up really messing up my metabolism and my body. And suddenly I realized, and I started meeting women who had kids and like they don't have time. And at first I used to say like, you can make time. But then I started realizing sometimes there are excuses and not necessarily excuses, but some people have really valid reasons not to be able to do something. And so I kind of started softening my approach and realizing that I needed to not be so rigid. And at the time, like CrossFit was coming out and people were really like, they were really hardcore and like, this is the way it has to be. And then as far as eating, people like, you have to eat paleo to lose weight. And then there was the vegans and it was like the war.
Yeah.
And so
The war
against
the war
the
of
vegans and paleo.
2012.
Yeah, exactly. So I was like in this place of going, well, if you like meat, then eat paleo. If you don't, then don't. Like if you want to be vegan.
So funny.
So I decided to shift my brand to be called the Sweaty Betties. And the Sweaty Betties was just more about fun. Like, because what happened was I started to get burnt out on fitness. Mm-hmm. I was training 1 million hours a week.
Right.
I was super exhausted. And I started to hate what I was doing. And I was like, I sat there one day, like another, earlier mental breakdown, like one of my earlier ones. And I was like, why am I doing this? Like, why am I personal training? Why did I even get into fitness? And I was like, because I liked it, because it was fun. And I realized like it wasn't fun anymore. Yeah. And so that was when I decided to rebrand. And I did Sweaty Betties with a girlfriend of mine, and we were like, let's make fitness fun again. And let's make it not so serious. Like, you don't have to be paleo and you don't have to do CrossFit. Like, do what you freaking want and what feels good. So that brand like exploded. People really resonated with the message. They were like tired of being like militant about their eating and militant about their workouts. And that grew to, we had 350,000 fans on Facebook and like
Oh
big
my gosh.
membership side and doing meal plans and workouts and like it was just super fun. I had like shirts and people were taking pictures all over the world, like Australia and New Zealand and England. And so it was like this big community, and it just really came out of just a rebranding. And I don't want to say a failure, but I shifted, I changed, and I could no longer feel good about like the no excuses. I was like, that's not me anymore. And so I know you had a couple different brand iterations, but that was mine. It was like, it was Danny J, and then it was No Excuses, and then it was Sweaty Betties. And then ironically, I ended up going back to Danny J because I wanted to talk more about mindset. I want to talk more about money. I wanted to talk more about relationships.
Well, and that's kind of when I found you. You had so much success in what you were doing that people were basically coming to you and saying, how are you doing what you're doing? So then people wanted to be coached from you, not just in fitness, but in business.
Yes.
And now you're actually training trainers. Like I come to you as a coach.
Yeah.
And so it's just amazing to see how that evolution of our life changes through. I mean, it's not to say like, Sweaty Betties doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
That was a success, not a failure, but it ended. And like everything ebbs and flows in its season.
Yeah.
And sometimes out of our things ending or failures comes beautiful things.
Totally.
Yeah.
I mean, when I met you, you were doing Beauty by Elizabeth Faye. And now like this new project, it's like you couldn't have gotten to where you are today had you not gone through the first one iteration, like 1.0 version, 2.0 version.
When it was like my
3.0
client's
version.
cooler than your client, which was a complete and utter failure. And then it was Beautiful Life, which was also a complete and utter failure. Yeah. And then it was Beautiful Life, which is Beauty by Elizabeth Faye, which is when I started really coming into like more of myself and what I say my most authentic brand was starting to begin. And give birth. Right? And from that, I mean, we even launched that first e-course. Remember it was Beauty School for the Everyday Ordinary Girl. And it was a fluke. It was a failure. And so like now I'm doing Workshop in a Box, which has already been a success, and it starts July 1st, which is super exciting. And I mean, my first one, it was a year-long project for me, and it didn't work out. And it was really discouraging. And I mean, it was an e-course. Like I feel like I saw online education before online education was hot, and I still feel like we're on the cusp of something new with online education. But like this is something I've had my eyeballs on since 2014, 2015, because I just think I think the internet is so revolutionary. I think social media is incredible, just also fucking powerful. I'm obsessed with it. So I wanted to build something, and the course was good. I mean, I still should like give it to you guys on Instagram for free or something.
Totally, like give it as like a bonus or free.
It is such a good course.
It really is.
But I was targeting the wrong audience. Long story short, I learned a lot about marketing from that. But it was a failure turned into a huge learning lesson. And now that I've launched this, course, which has also been a year-long project, actually. We started this last summer, and it still doesn't begin till July 1st of 2000. What we're in 18.
Oh my God.
July 2018.
Dude, 2020 sounds so far away. And it's like basically next year.
It's now. 2020 is tomorrow. But it's already been a success. So it's like our failures bring us to our biggest successes. And Workshop in a Box, like I'm already so excited. I have so much joy. Like this is like so much more like where my passion is, where I have more to give, where people are going to grow more. So it's just,
what's funny?
Failures are good.
They are. It's so funny because so many people get so stuck in the perfection. Like it has to be perfect before I let it go. It's like I have to make the perfect course before I sell it, or I have to have 27 certifications before I do anybody's hair or take on another client. I mean, I met personal trainers. I had two certifications. I did one just because I got paid more for doing two, but I got more experience training my clients. I've seen trainers who will go certification after certification after certification after certification. They don't have a roster of clients. They can't stay busy, and they don't know why. And I'm like, because you're going to learn more by actually doing what you need to do. And I'm like, I actually was teaching at UCLA 2 weeks ago, a branding course and about personal brands and stuff like that. And this kid raised his hand and he asked, well, how should I know if my stuff is good? He goes, I want to do a YouTube video. How do I know if my stuff is good?
Put it out there and people will tell you.
I said, you know what? It's not going to be. Because you know what? I'll look at my old YouTube videos and it sucked. But some
You're
people,
like, people will tell you it is shit and you will do better.
Yeah, and you know what? And people still watched it. People still liked it. If I look back today, and probably if we look back at Workshop in a Box in 5 years, you might be like, oh my gosh, that was so like lame. It's so much better now. But you just have to do the first thing.
Yeah.
Like we can think it's so amazing and we can think that our shit doesn't stink and someone will find something to point out.
Absolutely.
But you have to just do it and be ready. And also go, and you have to be okay with it not being good and not being perfect because it won't be. You don't get to find out. You don't know how to make it better until you just do it the one time, and then you can make adjustments.
100%. And that is, I mean, Hair Love Retreat has been a complete passion baby of mine. It was a huge financial investment.
Yes.
I mean, all across the board, employees, everything. But it's something I really, really wanted to do. And I mean, it was probably the coolest experience I've ever been, like, I'm gonna cry, I've been to in my life. I mean, educators were breaking down and talking about things that I've never heard people talk about. Students, like, people made friends from across the nation. We had people come from the East and West Coast, completely different age, like 20s and 40s, and leave. They're coming back next year as bunk buddies.
I love it.
But we had fucking failures in there. You know what I mean? And we had way more successes than we had failures. But we never could have learned from those if we didn't do the first one. And we're going to learn next year and the next year. And it was still an incredible life-changing event.
Totally.
But there's always going to be learning lessons.
Yeah, I'm sure there's things after that.
But if I would have just
next year we'll
waited, and we did, I mean, we had a list the size of who knows what of anything and everything that could go wrong. Yeah. And there's still, do you know what I mean?
Yep.
You just don't know until you try.
No, you don't. You don't. You actually can't even plan.
And you got to take the heat. You got to like handle the heat.
The things that you try to prepare for aren't even the things that are going to happen. It's the stuff that was never even on your mind.
And we even said that before. Our whole team, there's like over 10 of us. And we're like, shit's going to happen, guys, that we didn't even think about happening. And we got this.
Of course.
And you just roll with it. And you do your best. And you make executive decisions. And you trust each other. And you live to see another day and you do it better. But I mean, there's always failures. Do you know what I mean?
100%.
And I've had so many failures with employees and assistants. Oh my God. Oh my God.
Same.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm in the middle of that right now.
But I think
you do.
I think it's good to talk about those things. Yeah. So this would be my encouragement to those listening or watching today is to talk about your failures and look for the good that came out of them. Yeah. Because I think it makes you feel a little bit better. Don't you think?
Totally. I always started like, you know, and you know more of my personal life, but when I went through my split up with my ex-husband, I was so devastated and so torn apart. And I just kept repeating this mantra of don't miss the lesson. Don't miss the lesson.
Oh, I love that.
And I just kept thinking there's got to be a lesson in this.
I love that. That's going to be our lesson. Keep going, though.
So
I love that.
I was just like, if something is going wrong, I'm going, okay, I really believe that if there's a lesson to be had, you will keep going through things over and over again in different ways, or people will show up, like same client will show up until you figure
learn
that
it.
out. And
I agree with that. That's happened to me until like the third time you're like, oh my God, this is a pattern. I think I was supposed to learn that the first time.
Yes. Yeah. So I really try, and it's not always easy in the moment, right? There's times where I'm just crying and I'm like saying that don't miss a lesson. I'm like, I don't give a fuck. But it helps like kind of stop the pity party for a minute long enough to go, there's got to be something good in this. There has to be something I'm going to be learning. And if I don't know it right now, which sometimes you don't know sometimes you don't know the lesson until it's 6 months later, till it's a year later, till it's 2 years later. But if you trust that there's something there for you, if you trust that there's something for you to learn in that, then you will look for it and you will see the brighter side of it and you will come out of it faster and better for it.
Oh, I love that. I agree.
Yay.
Well, thank you for being here with us today, Danny J.
Thank
I
you.
love you. We both have some tears in our eyes. I'm a failure and you're a failure too. And don't miss the lesson. Thank you guys for tuning in with Instagram. We love you and we'll talk to you later. I still have to end. Hair love. Thank you for tuning in with us today, Danny J. Yay. This was an amazing day. We both have tears in our eyes. And thank you so much for opening up and going deep with me.
Yes, I love this stuff.
And I'm a failure, and so am I.
I'm a big failure.
Hey, wait.
Who are you calling a failure?
You're a failure, and so am I.
Thanks, bitch.
So I love that. I'm going to keep that with me. Don't miss the lesson. Yeah. So thanks, you guys, for tuning into Hair Love Radio, and we will see you on our next episode.
Hair Love Radio.
Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in today to Hair Love Radio. We enjoyed having Danny J here, and we hair love you.
Radio.